Dave. Our next speaker, and this kind of puts to rest, I think, the misconception that the labor leaders of the labor movement are old guys. We do have some young people coming up in our labor movement, and one of our up-and-coming people is Ryan Anderson of IATSE. He's our next speaker. Ryan?
Right.
Thanks, Mark. All right. As I said, I'm Ryan Anderson. I'm the business agent for IATSE, that stands for International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. We represent entertainment workers all across the country. One of the things we've had the privilege of doing recently is we actually helped set up and tear down all of President Obama's campaign events right here in the state of Iowa. So it was a great privilege. He was willing, he paid a quality wage for quality labor, and that's something that I hope he convinced everybody else to do as well with policies and as he moves forward, coming down in the next year. So continuing on, I also hope that he convinced Republicans to get away from the current practices of creating more economic inequality and class warfare. And we've got, and Americans on Tuesday night spoke and said, we want a fair chance, we want fair wages, we want a level playing field. Economic disparity being at the levels that they have been, that they haven't been in a long time, now is the time to level that playing field. It is not time to continue to assist the richest of Americans to get richer while the rest of us struggle. It is important to ensure that hard-working Americans are not left to suffer. We can keep by doing this by keeping tax cuts for the middle class and letting those Bush tax cuts expire. The system put in place by President Bush, it was proven to fail. We went through the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, had soaring unemployment, and grew the economic gap between the rich and everyone else. These policies cannot continue in this country if we want it to be the greatest country in the world. We have to take care of all Americans, not just the most fortunate ones. Taking care of Americans includes making sure that all hardworking Americans can retire with dignity and be taken care of after they do. Social Security is a benefit I won't be able to use for another 30+ years, but I sure hope it's there when I do.
I hope so too.
I work in an industry that's very demanding on my body. Now, I don't know if, 30 years from now, if I'm going to be able to continue to work. I don't know if it's physically possible for me. So, all of us put into Social Security with the expectation that's an investment in our future, the future of all Americans. This is why if any of us are fortunate enough to retire, we need to be taken care of, which is why we also cannot cut Medicare benefits. Our seniors deserve the right to quality medical care after spending their entire lives to provide for their families. Rich people aren't the only ones working hard in this country. They aren't the only ones that deserve a break. A little personal story for me. When we're talking about Social Security, Medicare, that kind of thing. I would think back to my grandmother, who passed away in 2003. She worked for the government for years. But when she retired, she saved modestly, but she also used Social Security. And I remember her talking to me about that, and how that when she did use when Social Security came, it allowed her to do things like, buy birthday presents for all of her grandchildren, birthday presents, Christmas presents, those kind of things. When people retire, they shouldn't have to stop living. Just because you retire, that's not how you should have to do. You shouldn't have to struggle constantly. You should be taken care of if you work hard and represent this country well. So it's time for this burden to be shifted back to those who are most fortunate. We must help the middle class get back up off the mat. Let your elected officials know that they need to fight for us and extend all of the social programs that Americans deserve. We have spoken now. It is time they listen. I'm Ryan Anderson, and I approve this message.